We are going to finish chapter 6 today. Announcements. Your quiz 6 is going to be available by tonight, and it's going to be due on Monday. Your midterm grade will be posted next week, including your assignment 1, so you can get a sense how you're doing in this class. And if you have any questions, let me know. For today's agenda, we're going to do a couple of quick practice questions for hearing and vision that we talked about last class. And then we are going to talk about perception, including organizing the world, how do we recognize the world, and our attention. So question, this is for reviewing last class. Pat and Terry are taking a romantic walk at night. What part of their retinas allow them to see the stars? You can just say it. You see. See? Okay. Very good. So because it's in the dark, you need to see in low light situation, you need to use the rods. Okay. If you stare at the color blue long enough, and then look at a white piece of paper, you will see the color what? Due to what? D? D? I hear D. Any other ideas, opinions? Okay, so it's D. Very good. So that's the opponent process in your exams. Joseph should be studying, but he's lazy, so he's still listening to music. As the sound wave hits his ear, one wave has a shorter wavelength than the other. What he hears is a change in B. You agree? Okay, very good. So, shorter or longer wavelengths, that's frequency, and that determines pitch. Very good. Okay, perception. Just a reminder, the perception is the process of making sensations into meaningful experiences. They are not passive, but they are automatic and effortless. Perception varies based on individual experience. So people can have different perception based on their own experience. We have two types of processing. First, we have the bottom-up. This is when we take in pieces of information and coming up with a conclusion. Second, we have the top-down processing. This is when we apply a pre-existing idea to understand pieces of information that we see. Okay, so next I will give you an example. So what do you see in this picture?
A sideways duck.
Huh?
A sideways duck.
A duck?
Or a rabbit.
Rabbit?
Oh.
So you first saw the duck. What about other people?
I saw the duck.
What did you see first sight?
Yeah, I saw the rabbit.
Okay, so some saw a rabbit.
I saw the duck.
You first sight saw the duck.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So after you hear different opinions, you see both, right?
Yeah.
So at first, your sensation is just what's presented here, and then you perceive it. And then you hear other people's idea, you see different things, or you think about the picture that I showed you last time, you had to tilt your head to see a different image. And then you have a different perception. That's top down, because you're using your pre-existing idea. Either you heard your classmates or from the last class or in past experience, you find two perceptions. That's the top-down processing. Does that make sense? Without thinking about it, the first time you see it, you're piecing the information you see that's either a bunny or a duck, that's bottom up. Does that make sense? Okay, all right. So for bottom-up processing, the stimulus first analyzed into basic features. we have feature detectors. Those are cells that activate in response to specific features. So here is an example. When we see the letter D, we will dissect this to a straight line and this curve. So we have this all like pre-existing ideas, and then we match them, it forms a D. And then triangle will be the 3 lines here, and it forms a triangle. So those are our feature detectors. Oops, sorry. I'm gonna mute my phone. So for our feature detectors, our brain automatically detect orientation, shape, size, motion, and faces. Also, our brain try to adjust what we see and make sure they make sense. Remember, we are meaning-making machines, right? So now I'm going to show you a couple pictures. They look like normal faces, right?
I don't know why the top one's down.
Okay. So but they look kind of normal, right?
Yeah.
But if I flip them around, you see what's wrong with them,
Yeah.
right? So the first time you see it, it doesn't really make sense. It's kind of vague, but your brain is trying to make sense of the information. So it's not too odd when you look at it. But when we see the real picture, it looks like crazy or like monsters. All right. Then we have the top-down processing. This is when we have our existing expectations or biases influence the interpretation of our sensation. This occurs in a personally meaningful way. So this is not always the same for everyone. Our brain constructs our perception using personal experiences, expectations, beliefs, context, or we call it the framing. I'm gonna show you what a backmasking looks like. Do you know what this means? Backmasking?
Did you show this before?
I don't think so. I'll show you. And this is the link you can go to if you're interested. So backmasking is a top-down processing. This is a recording technique in which a sound or message is recorded backwards onto a track that is meant to be played forward. Okay? I'm going to show you a couple examples. First, John Lennon's Imagine. Have you heard this song before?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is what it sounds like when we play it forward.
Imagine all the people.
Okay. That's normal, right? And then I'm going to play it reversed. Try to listen to what this is. What do you hear?
Gibberish.
Gibberish? Nothing? Can anyone hear anything? No? Okay. What about now? When I show you this. The people war beside me. And then I'm going to ask you to listen again, see if you can get that.
That's weird.
Now you hear it. So that's top-down processing. You have the pre-existing idea, and your brain makes sense of the sensation. Yes?
So is priming kind of similar to that? Because like I feel like you could have said, you could put almost any sentence up there and then eventually we would have heard it with that.
I don't think so.
Okay.
If you want to try different words and you play again, it's kind of hard.
Okay.
You have to find the things that kind of similar and it does make sense to a certain extent.
Okay.
Right? And priming is a little bit different here. Yep. Because right now you're actually consciously processing the information, but priming you're not. Okay? Good question. Okay, I'm going to show you a different example. Hotel California. You guys know the song?
Mm-hmm.
In the middle of the night, just to hear them say,
Okay. Now I'm gonna reverse it.
"Hey, slavery is just and the burning."
All right, what do you hear? Nothing at all. Do you hear anything?
Gibberish.
Just gibberish. Even you try to understand what it is, it's kind of hard, right?
Mhm.
Okay. And then look at this sentence. And then hear this again.
Hey, slavery is just and the burning.
You got it? Okay.
It's weird.
Kinda. All right. So there are multiple examples on this website. If you're interested, go take a look. I don't know if you guys heard when I was younger, maybe in your ages, there are like conspiracy theories that people put informations in tracks. If you play backwards, you hear them.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, it's just people trying to make sense, trying to make story out of it. Okay. Top-down processing. We have the pareidolia. This is the tendency to interpret a vague stimulus as something known to the observer. You can see the similarity here, right? A little bit. Here? What do you see here?
It's smiley faces.
Faces, right? Then here, you can see a face. So that's when our brain interprets shapes into familiar things. A lot of times, faces, because we are very familiar with faces. And this explains a lot of other phenomena, like when we hear hidden messages in music, when we see faces in abstract patterns. Okay. Next, I'm going to ask you a quick question. Look at the picture and tell me what this is. What is it?
Toothpaste.
Toothpaste? Okay.
Yeah.
So for those who didn't get it, would this make it simpler?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, again, top-down processing. Okay. All right. So next, I am going to show you how we organize our perceptual world. For perceptual organization, this is the process of grouping visual elements together, and we call it the organization, so that one can more readily determine the meaning of the visual as a whole, and that will be our perception. And there are many different principles. I will go through them one by one, just in case confused by them. So first, we have the likelihood principle. This is when we organize elements based on most likely arrangement. And this is how your perceptual system determines which edges and stimuli go together. Here is an example. How many legs does this elephant have? Is it really 5?
Well, it's not really connected.
Exactly. So our brain still tend to organize them in the most likely arrangement. We have the pre-existing idea of legs, and then we try to make sense, but in reality, it's just like not connected at all. All right. We use past experiences to help us apply this likelihood principle. Next, we have the simplicity principle. And this is when we organize elements to provide simplest perception. For example, we have imaginary lines to make unconnected elements come together. So what do you see here?
Like a box.
Box, cube, right? But is it really there? Or is it just there are different types of circle shapes? right? So your perception is telling you there is a box here because you're applying the simplicity principle. Right? Does that make sense? Next, we have the grouping, or we call it the Gestalt principles. That's when our perceptual systems group stimuli into a world of shapes and objects. So next, I'm going to ask you questions. How many groups are here? 4? Okay. How many groups are here? 4? You guys agree? Do you think 2?
Yeah.
So for those who say 4, which 4 are you talking about? Those? Okay. And 2 colors? Okay, so it's still like that. All right. What about this? 2. It's kind of similar, 2 or 4, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's proximity here. So we tend to group close objects together. We tend to say those are groups. And we also tend to have the similarity principle is when this occurs when objects look similar to one another, and the viewer tend to perceive them as a group and pattern. And this can be shape, color, texture, and etc. I'm not telling you how to group them, but you have a pre-existing idea how to group them on your own, right? Next, we have continuity. This is when we perceive objects in their simplest form. This is when continuation occurs when our eyes are compelled to move through one object to another. But we are seeing this as a straight line and a curve instead of this because of continuity. And this is often used in typographic based logo, such as this. Okay. They're not really connected, but we see them as continued. And next we have closure. This is when the mind attempts to fill in details that isn't really there subconsciously. So we don't realize that we're doing it, but we are. Because you see a shape of triangle here, right? And a circle, even though there's gap between them. And this logo kind of shows that. Do you see a panda here?
Yeah.
Okay. Even though the face is not really there, but we see it. We fill in the details that's missing. All right. Any questions so far? So what do you see here? Anyone? Luis?
I see like kitchen utensils.
Okay. Can you give me some examples?
Like I see like a hammer. I see some, a couple knives.
Hammers right here.
Yeah, and some knives.
Where are the knives?
And the white space.
Okay, right here?
Yeah. Some
Okay.
like clamps to the left of the hammer.
Okay. So those are the shapes that you see in black, and then you also see white, right? Okay. What about other people? So kind of similar? Okay. So when you see a hammer here, what is the background?
Right.
The white part will be the background. But when you see like a knife here, what will be the background? Okay. So this is called figure ground processing. We tend to assign a figure and a ground. So the figure will be the foreground, and the ground will be the background. For example, this will be a figure ground example. Can you see figure and ground? Depending on how you put the figure and the ground. Right? What about here? What do you see?
Two faces or like shadows.
Okay. So, yeah, again, depending on which one you perceive as the background, you see different things. This also happens in our daily experiences, like writings. When you write, the letters in black will be foreground, and the white piece of paper will be backgrounds, right? Can you think of any other examples in life? How we perceive things.
Just with our eyes, I guess, we have things that are out of focus behind it, but I'm not really sure if that falls into this figure ground processing.
Yeah, kind of. So before you speak up, my attention is the everyone here, right? And then once you speak up, my attention turns to you and everyone becomes the background. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that kind of tags into our attention as well. Here, what do you see? Yeah, please.
Say Wolverine.
Wolverine,
Two Batman.
two Batmans.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Okay. So the first time when you see it without knowing the other thing, that's bottom-up processing. Right? You see it, and then you process the information, you get a perception. And then you hear someone says, Wolverine, you didn't see that, or two Batmans, you didn't see that, then that will be top-down processing. Okay, so those are a lot of examples to help you distinguish the two. Questions?
So with figure ground processing, does that also happen with like hearing and stuff? Because it seems like if you're in a place that's like crowded, there's a lot of stuff going on, sometimes it can just be a jumble of noise, but if you focus on something.
Exactly,
pick it up.
exactly. Can you say that again for online students?
I was just asking if figure ground processing also works for hearing.
Okay, yep. So exactly, depending on how you focus your attention, there could be background noises and foregrounds. For example, in a ballroom, let's say you're in your high school prom, and it's crowded, it's annoying, but when someone says your name, you tend to pay attention to that, right? Even though you're not paying attention to the conversation that they're having. Then once you hear something in the background that's your name, you pay attention to that. That becomes the foreground, and the rest will be the background. Very good. Any other questions? Good. Okay. So here is a graph to help you understand what the Gestalt principle is. So closure, proximity, we tend to group colors, the same colors together. Continuation, right? And then similarity, figure and ground. Yes, Luis.
Like for proximity, like would you say like, do you know what like pixels are, like pixel art or stuff like that is?
I know what pixels are.
So like I've seen it before, like people do like something similar like that they group pixels together
Mhm.
to be able to make like an image, even
Mhm.
though if you zoom in, you can tell they're like individual
Oh.
colors.
Yeah,
Or, like,
so that's the same with any kind of screens, right? With computer screens, with your phone, if you zoom very big, it becomes pixels. All right, very good, very good. So next, we're going to talk about how do we recognize the perceptual world. So we have two types of perception. We have the motion perception. So we use cues to inform us about an object's motion. So cues include backgrounds. Objects are perceived to be moving faster compared to when the same object is moving across a simpler background. Does that make sense?
Like when you're in a car.
So if you're in a car and the outside is very complicated, like buildings, stores, the same speed, it's perceived faster if you compare to
If you just like look at the street.
compared to if you're on a highway and nothing is out there. Does that make sense? Okay, so if it's more complicated background, you perceive this as faster. Other cues include size, so smaller objects appear to move faster than large objects when all else is equal. Also, we have apparent motion. That's the appearance of real motion from a sequence of still images. Also, we use shadows to help us know whether an object is moving or not. So I will give you 2 examples. One is for apparent motion and one is shadows, because that's a little more abstract than the others. So now focus on the center. Just keep focusing, don't look at anything else, and tell me what you see.
The purple circles just like disappear.
Do you guys see it? Do you see the purple circles disappear and then you see a green circle moving around? Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's apparent. It's like you perceive the still images to move around. I hope it doesn't make you dizzy. Okay, next I'm going to show you how shadow help us detect motion.
Take a look at that basketball again. We're going to put it on the court and move it along a diagonal. Now we're going to add a shadow. It's still moving in the same way, right? Okay, so what if we change the position of the shadow? Do you think we can trick your brain into seeing the ball's motion differently? Does it look like the ball is taking off now? Let's tweak the shadow one more time. What's the ball doing now? Looks like it's bouncing, right? In a world with a single light source, your brain has learned to trust shadows as a near foolproof way to know the behavior of objects in space. And in general, it's worked. Until now.
All right, if you're interested, I have the whole video here. You can go to watch it. It's pretty cool. Does that help you understand how shadow works? Good. Next, we have depth perception. So first we have motion perception, right? And we have the depth perception. This is giving us the ability to see things in 3D. It helps us determine what is near from what is far. So which one is near and which one is far?
The one on the left is closer than the one on the right.
All right, okay. Very good. However, if you take off the backgrounds, you see these two are actually the same size. We're just trying to see the depth with the background here, right? Okay. Okay, perceptual constancy. This is our tendency to perceive objects as unchanging even when they are actually different at the sensation level. One example would be size. We know this can is the same size as the other can, even though we don't know. So our sensation, they are different. This one's larger than the other one, right? So right now I see you guys in the front row larger than you guys in the back rows. And I know it's not like they're really bigger than you guys. It's just because they're closer, right? For example, if you in the back walk towards me, you're not becoming larger. It's the same, it's just the distance, okay? So that's perceptual constancy. Next, we have color. With different light sources, we still know this is yellow, and this is green for the apple, and that's red, even though they're actually different depending on the light source. Lastly, we have shape. So when you open the door, the shape actually changes in the sensation level, but we know that it's the same in our perception. Yes, Luis?
Have you seen that type of art that it's like concave, but it looks like the image is constantly following you wherever angle you look like? Following the shapes?
Not really. The one that you're talking about is, it's like that painting with the woman of the eyes. Like you think that they're looking at you. Is that what you're looking at?
No, it's like how they do it is like
We talked about it. It was the like convex based.
Is that the example that you're talking about?
Like
It's
if
a
you
hollow,
have a hollow thing,
hollow
and then
face.
you block it.
I mean, let me see if I can find an image. I'll show you after class.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay, next we are going to talk about attention. So attention is when we focus mental resources to enhance perception and performance. It helps us to detect and select from the environment the direct sensory and perceptual systems towards certain stimuli. Helps us select specific information for processing. Helps us ignore some stimuli. And it gives us the ability to allocate mental energy. And we can regulate the flow of resources. So attention allows us to do that. Otherwise, we'll be bombarded by the information that we receive from the environment, right? Because there's so many. It also gives us the ability to improve mental processing, even though it takes effort and our attention is limited. So when you have overwhelming information, you can only focus on a part of it. You can process everything. All right. Next, I'm going to show you this video. Just pay attention and it will guide you through. Whoa, hold on.
Count how many times the players wearing white pass the ball. The correct answer is 16 passes.
Did anyone get that? Okay. But did you see the gorilla as well?
Yep.
Okay. But did you see the background color changed?
A little bit.
Like a little bit?
Red and white.
Yep.
Count. Leaving
So
the
there are a
game.
lot of things changed. You can go back and play this
Let's
game.
go.
If you have not seen this video before, would you, or try to remember the first time you saw it, did you notice everything? Or if this is the first time you saw it, did you notice everything?
Like, I haven't seen this video, but I've seen something similar.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. If you don't know what's going on, would you be able to focus on all the
The first one
changes?
definitely missed the color.
Okay, so the color, right?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
the color is the only one that like I didn't know. And then like I think one, like at the end, I think one of the ladies just leave the black strip ones. So if you remember, there was like 6 women at the beginning, and then at the end there's only 5. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so if it's just your first time saw this, and if you didn't notice everything, that's because our attention is limited. Unless you're actually trying and paying attention to see everything that's changed in this video. Otherwise, we don't pay attention to that. And
Take color. Or the
right, move forward. And this is called the inattentional blindness. So we are blind to unattended information. The prompt is to ask you to count but the passes, but any other information is just not important. So we are blind to them, even though we actually saw it. Yes.
So like this is like the idea of like if you're working on something or like not hydrophobes but really focused, you don't, and someone like walks up to you, you sometimes don't even notice someone walked up to you because you're concentrating on what you're working on.
If that happens, yes. Yep. Okay. So next, I'm going to show you a different video. If you have seen it, just be quiet and let other people pay attention.
Hi, I'm Richard, this is Sarah, and we're going to perform the amazing colour-changing card trick with this blue-backed deck of cards. Now the idea is very simple. I'm just going to spread the cards in front of Sarah and ask her to push any card towards the camera.
Right, okay, let's see. I'm going to go for this card here.
Okay. Now Sarah could have selected any card at all from the deck, but she selected the card which is now face down on the table. And what I'm going to ask her to do is show us which card she selected.
Right, so the card that I chose was in fact the 3 of diamonds.
The 3 of diamonds, okay, excellent choice. That card goes back into the deck. Now I'm just going to spread the cards face up on the table, give a little click of the fingers, and you'll see that Sarah's card here has now got a blue back. Not particularly surprising. What's slightly more surprising is all of the other cards have got red backs. And that is the amazing colour-changing card trick.
Did you notice all of the changes?
Hi, I'm Richard, this is Sarah, and we're going to perform the amazing colour-changing card trick with this blue-backed deck of cards. Now the idea is very simple. I'm just going to spread the cards in front of Sarah and ask her to push any card towards the camera.
Right, okay, let's see. I'm going to go for this card here.
Okay. Now Sarah could have selected any card at all from the deck, but she selected the card which is now face down on the table. And what I'm going to ask her to do is show us which card she selected.
Right, so the card that I chose was in fact the 3 of diamonds.
The 3 of diamonds, okay, excellent choice. That card goes back into the deck. Now I'm just going to spread the cards face up on the table, give a little click of the fingers, and you'll see that Sarah's card here has now got a blue back. Not particularly surprising. What's slightly more surprising is all of the other cards have got red backs. And that is the amazing colour-changing card trick.
Alright, it's pretty cool, right? So that's the change blindness, is when we miss changes in environments due to intentional blindness. Did you guys see the gorilla in that video?
Yes.
Okay. So the gorilla was sitting there. Did you guys see it?
Yeah.
No? I'm gonna show you real quick. Right here.
Why?
Okay. So this is the change blindness and the inattentional blindness. All right. Any questions? Why is there a gorilla?
Yeah.
I think it just it's from the same lab. It's a prompt, like a Easter egg in movies. Right? No questions? We're good. We're 10 minutes early. Have a good weekend. And make sure you remember to do your quiz. Yes?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so that's the one that we talked about.
So, yeah, because when you show the mask, I really didn't like see it. But when I see, like, it's more obvious with like something like this. But with when I look at the rotating mask, I really like see it. Like,
Yeah, if you go to the website that I read it, is that it's over there too.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
So that one's more with the other, with the inverse thing, the inverse face thing, I think it's called, or something, I don't remember what it's called exactly. The hollow face, yeah.
Yep. Yep. It's
Okay.
the hollow faced illusion. Yep.